Hey, 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 you better obey the colonel. What do I mean by that? You're about to find out. Alright, so welcome to the Math 6 2.2 video. Today we're talking about dividing fractions and obeying the colonel. Alright, so what do I mean by that? Well, before we get there and get to talking about obeying the colonel and whatever that means, we need to talk about reciprocals. Okay, so what's reciprocals? Well, reciprocals are two numbers whose product is 1. Okay, so something times this other thing and it equals 1, right? Okay, so like, what would the reciprocal 4 be? 4 times what is equal to 1? Well, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So whatever this is here is going to have to be less than 1, right? So let's kind of think about this. Let's do these right here. So what's the reciprocal of 4/5? Well, 4/5 times something is going to equal 1, okay? Or it could equal 1 over 1, which really is 1 anyway. So I'm going to tell you that it's actually 5/4. And how to get 5/4? Well, look at this. What happens when you multiply 4/5 times 5/4? Well, 4 and 4, can I cross cancel those? Yeah. They both become 1s, right? What about the 5 and the 5? I can cross cancel those. They also both become 1s. So what's 1 times 1? 1. What's 1 times 1? 1. What's 1 over 1? It's 1. Two numbers whose product is what? 1, right? So that's what we're looking at right there. So what was the reciprocal of 4/5? 5/4. And you might also notice that, hey, guess what? That's the same fraction. You just flipped the numerator and denominator. And that's exactly the point. So what is the reciprocal of 9/7? Well, flip the numerator and denominator. 7/9. Okay? So I will put 5 over 4 here as the answer to that one. So all you have to do is flip. So what do we do about this one? What's the reciprocal of 4? Well, remember 4 is really the number 4 over 1. And what's the reciprocal of 4 over 1? Flip it. So the reciprocal, R, is 1 over 4. Okay? 1/4 would be the reciprocal of 4. What's the reciprocal of 3? 1/3. What's the reciprocal of 8? 1/8. Okay? So on and so forth. So if you can remember that for the rest of the video, you're going to be just fine. Alright, the kernel. What do I mean by the kernel? Well, I mean keep, change, flip. What in the world does keep, change, flip mean, and why do we need to know it? Here's why. Alright, so let's say we are asked to evaluate the expression 1/6 divided by 2/3. Okay, so the way we do that is we keep, change, flip, KCF. So I switched it, I blurred out some of the letters and flipped them, right? It's not KFC, it's KCF. Keep, change, flip. So what do? Keep the first fraction. So the 1/6 is going to stay 1/6. Now I change from here. I'm going to change whatever division sign there was, and I'm going to turn it into a multiplication dot. And then flip, what does that mean? Well, it means flip that last fraction to its reciprocal, reciprocal. So the 2/3, what's the reciprocal of 2/3? 3 over 2. And now I can multiply just like normal fractions, right? Can I cross cancel anything? Yep, 6 and 3. The 3 and the 6 can both be divided by 3. So that becomes a 1 and that becomes a 2. And so then anything else to simplify or cross cancel? No. So 1 times 1 is 1 over 2 times 2 is what? 4. So what is 1/6 divided by 2/3? 1/4. How do we get there? Keep, change, flip, obey the kernel. Alright, so use what you just learned about keep, change, flip. Try that one. Pause it. Play it when you're done. Okay, so I'm going to keep the first one, fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip. 8/3 becomes 3/8. And now I say, hey, can I cross cancel anything? Yeah. The 4 and the 8, that become a 1. That'll become a 2. And then 1 times 3 on top is 3. And 5 times 2 on the bottom is 10. And you get 3/10. Easy as that. Alright, so how about this? 0.7 divided by 4. Well, could I set that up and do, 0.7 divided by 4? Yeah, I could do it that way. But I could also turn them into fractions, okay? So what is 0.7 as a fraction? Well, the last digit is in the 10th place, and so that number right there is the number that goes on top of a 10. So 7/10 is 7 over 10. Divided by 4, what is a whole number as a fraction? You just put it over what? 1. Okay, so now that we have two fractions, I can keep, change, and flip. Just like that. So anything to cross cancel? No and no. Can I simplify 7/10? No. What about 1/4? No. And so let's just go ahead and multiply. 7 times 1 is 7 over 10 times 4 is 40, and that's all there is to it. 7/40ths. Alright, so y'all know I love boxers, so I have to do a problem about boxers every once in a while. So the average length of a 1-month-old boxer puppy is 5/6 of a foot. Okay? The average length of an adult is 3 1/2 feet. How many times longer is an adult than a puppy? Alright, so how are we going to figure this out? First thing I would probably do is pause the video and get this all written down. Second thing I would probably do is go ahead and give it some numbers, okay? So instead of, let's do a little translating here. So 5/6. Okay, so for the puppy, okay, 5/6. For the adult, 3 1/2. Okay, how many times longer is an adult than a puppy? Now that can be kind of tricky when we start thinking about these fractions. Like, oh, man, how many times longer is 3 1/2 than 5/6? Well, let's think about this. Let's put some pretend numbers in there. Okay, so for puppy and adult, I'm going to put some new pretend numbers. Let's say the puppy was 2 feet long, and the adult was 4. And we'd say, actually, no, let's do 6. Let's do 6. Okay. And we said, how many times longer is the adult, okay, than the puppy? Well, it'd be 3. 3 times as long, right? Because that's 2, and you have to take 2 times 3 to get to 6. Or you could think of it as 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we're taking the adult length and dividing that by the puppy length to get our how many times longer. So while we're not using 6 and 2, the method is still the same. So let's take the adult length of 3 1/2, and we're going to divide it by the puppy length of 5/6. So let's work that out. Got to keep, change, flip, right? But before we even do that, we have to change this mixed number into an improper. So 3 1/2 becomes 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1. 7/2 divided by 5/6. And now we keep, change, flip, right? Keep, change, flip. Anything to cross cancel? Yep. 2 and 6 can become a 1 and a 3 because I'm dividing by 3. 7 times 3 is 21. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so probably wouldn't leave our answer in this format because of the nature of the question. How many times longer? 21/5 longer? Yeah, let's go ahead and change it to a mixed number. 5 goes into 21. 4 whole times, which puts you at 20, and 1/5 left over. So that'd probably be the best way. So 4 1/5 times longer. You could also say 4.2 times longer because 1/5 is the same as 2/10 as a decimal. So yeah, either way. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Thank you for sticking with it. I will see you in class.